So you're seriously asking yourself why no one is buying your products? Well, let's be honest. If your product photos look like a selfie taken with a Nokia, you really shouldn't be surprised. And yes, I know you know that moment when you upload great product photos, or at least you think they're great, to your Amazon listing or your online shop, and then nothing happens. No customer buys. And of course, that's really tough, because you believe you've uploaded the best photos of your product that have ever existed. But that's a misconception. I think this saying is kind of silly, but it's true. The bait has to appeal to the fish, not the fisherman. And if you rave about your products because you think they're the best thing you've ever made, that might be true in your world. But in the world of your customers, things might look completely different. And so often I see out there that even good products are presented with bad photos, completely sabotaging sales, as if it were done by an annoyed intern. So here are the brutally most important points for your product: product listing, cultural perception studies, and platform psychology. Plus, how image service providers can save your sales, because these are the guys who create them. Photos that really work. Okay, now let's be honest. If your product photos are bad, and yes, in 80% of cases they are, then you shouldn't be surprised about your low conversion rate. 93% of all consumers make their purchase decision based on the product images. And not like how cool your SEO text is. 75% of all shoppers rely on the images to determine whether the product solves their problem, yes or no. And in an online survey, 83% of all online customers said that product images are the most important criterion for buying a product at all, much more important than the product description. On the other hand, 22% of all returns happen because the images promise more than the product actually delivers. So, good and truthful product photography not only increases sales, but also reduces the return rate. Makes sense, right? Let's take a very simple example. Let's assume you currently have 200 sales for a product that costs 50 euros. That makes, if you do the math, 10,000 euros in revenue every month. All of this is based on product photos you once took with your smartphone. And those are anything but professional. According to studies, good product photos can increase conversion by 35%. That means after you've hired a proper agency to create images for your products, you could increase your sales to 270 per month. Then suddenly you have 13,500 euros in revenue. That means 3,500 euros more per month, or 42,000 euros more in revenue per year. The investment for a professional photo agency is somewhere between 800 and 2,000 euros. Whatever you want, but we can also take a look together. I'm here on SEO-Pictures. This is probably one of the best photo agencies in Germany. Here we have the prices. Let's take Amazon product photos as an example. Why not just Amazon product photos? Especially the Holy Grails. We'll talk about those in this video as well. We're discussing a lot in this video, so take your time with it. This is going to take quite a while. So now we have the premium packages here. As I already mentioned, at SEO-Pictures, prices start from 599 to 899 euros. That's where it begins. So we're already in a pretty good range. And if you want the A+ package, meaning the text along with the images, then further down. For the special product description on Amazon, you're looking at 900 to 1,400 euros. The whole thing really depends on the complexity of the product. At the end of the day, that makes sense in a way. But nevertheless, the investment pays off relatively quickly, because your product doesn't change. And if you want to have your products photographed professionally, then you're already quite sure that this item won't just be listed on Amazon for 14 days, but for a long time, ideally 2 or 3 years. And one more thing, which you shouldn't forget. Because anyone who has ever dealt with Amazon SEO knows that a higher conversion rate brings more sales. More sales on Amazon doesn't just mean more money in your pocket, though it does mean that too. But you also move up in the SEO ranking, and that means for you that you'll make even more sales. So you won't just stay stuck at 270 units sold. Because the more people find you in the organic ranking, that is the ranking you don't have to pay for, the more sales you'll make. That means, in the best case, you don't just have 270 sales from the conversion increase alone, but possibly double that, because you're suddenly doing so well in SEO. So you've now learned that product photos are important for your success in online business. That's really nothing new. Nothing new. What's new, and I see this again and again, and sometimes I really want to shake the retailers, is that they use the same images for all platforms. Whether they're selling on Amazon, on eBay, or on Otto, yes, even on TikTok and Instagram, or on Facebook. Of course, every platform has different rules. The strictest ones, of course, are once again, Amazon, of course, is leading the way. Yes, as we know, the images, the main preview image, must have a white background at the end of the day, and nothing else is allowed on it. And then you have the 7 or 8 images, or however many your category allows, of additional images you can upload. That's point number 1. Yes, of course, obviously. Resolution is important. Amazon recommends it. 1600 pixels, so that you already have the zoom function. Yes, the maximum you can use is also 10,000 pixels. I think 3000 pixels is also enough if pixels mean anything to you. Otherwise, you just go to an agency. SEO-Pictures can do that too. You say, hey, my good friend, I want the images in JPEG. At least 3000 pixels. Then they'll already know what's up. And probably, since they are experts, they also know exactly how they need to deliver it. What many people don't know is that the product must take up at least 85% of the area. So you can't just take a white image and show your product really small. Of course, Amazon doesn't want that. Watermarks, logos, all that circus. Amazon obviously doesn't want any of that. They want clean images. And that comes back to bite them in Asia as well, but we'll get to that later. That's why you should definitely keep watching, because we'll also be talking about the cultural differences. For example, that European images don't work in Asia, or anywhere else for that matter. What's also forbidden, for example, are hands, feet, and children, and anything else that doesn't belong in the image, or rather, what is not included in the scope of delivery, and the product must be completely visible in the image. Yes, so on the left and right, it must not be cut off. Right, well, that's something everyone knows. So, and then we have images 2 through 9. There, you can basically do whatever you want. Well, you shouldn't, but you could. We'll get to what's important in a moment, and especially in which order you should present the images, because you're taking the customer on a journey with your gallery. Ideally straight to the product, bam, into the shopping cart. That's the end of the journey, and you can improve that by clearly defining the order of the images. On eBay, we're much more flexible. There you can do whatever you want. You can upload images there, it doesn't matter at all. They don't care either, but that's exactly how the listing looks. But as I said, it's just our cultural perception. Everything has to be nice and clean, everything nicely structured. Yeah, German mindset, bub. Yeah, we all know how that is. So on eBay, it looks like a wild jungle. Even the titles, if you look into the SWORA section, they're just suggestions for keywords. Yeah, on eBay, they say the recommendation, 1600 pixels for zoom. But you should use at least between 5 and 7. Watermarks also forbidden here. That's also forbidden on Amazon. And even text and logos are so frowned upon that there's actually a ban on them as well. On eBay, used items are also very commonly sold. That means here I recommend that when you upload product photos of used items on eBay, and there are actually cosmetic flaws to be found, then do yourself a favor and photograph them and upload them there. If you hide them, you'll just end up with a return. The customer needs to know what they're getting. Otherwise, as I said, your product will go on vacation to the customer and come back after 2 weeks. You don't want that either. Yeah, Otto. Otto's another marketplace. I really don't know how to assess it. Let me know in the comments if you even sell on Otto. So far I haven't heard of any big success stories. On eBay, I can personally attest that it works. I actually achieved 6-figure sales this year. Almost 7 figures. That works. That was a real marketplace. It filled my pockets nicely. I have to say that quite honestly. Amazon, yes, of course, we don't even need to discuss that. Talk. Otto, I don't know. Just let me know in the comments. If that's actually a relevant marketplace, then we can briefly discuss it here in detail. If not, then I'll save myself the effort. So, and now we probably have the biggest deviation because I think that you might be able to mix eBay and Amazon. I can't recommend it, but you could say if eBay isn't a major channel anyway. And if you don't have that much potential before you take extra photos, then you can also use the eBay photos. What you absolutely must not and should not do, under no circumstances, never ever do not do this, is use them for social media. Yes, so Instagram, Facebook. With Pinterest, things work completely differently. The customers there are different. The customers come with a completely different set of expectations. Normally, they don't even want to buy your stuff. These are all impulse purchases. You hook them with some funny pictures. They just shouldn't look like they've just been taken out of a sterile room. These are lively pictures. It's a community for people, filled by people. Dimensions, square, whatever, it all depends on which type of ad you want to use. There we have it, the whole package from A to Z. It's best if you take a quick look yourself to see what you need there. It's important that we have authenticity here, before perfection. Authenticity before perfection. Perfect pictures never go over well. Lifestyle is always the main focus. People want these images to evoke a feeling. It has to make an impact, in the gut, in the mind. They need an emotional connection. They need to be able to imagine a story. Exactly, that might even be the best example. You have to be able to tell people a story through the images. User-generated content is always the best. That means pictures from users who are using your product. Potential customers can picture that as well. When Rale, somewhere in the Ruhr area, fires up your grill in his allotment garden, of course with a soda in hand, and grills his vegan meat. People can imagine that. They can smell it, the meat. They can imagine the feeling, how the sun slowly warms their skin, how the smell of the meat spreads through their nose, and the taste of the Fassbraus on their tongue. Now you're getting hungry, aren't you? But stay here now, please stick around until I finish the video. And if you really want to be clever, of course you'll go for a consistent look. Because social media is always, to some extent, branding. That means, of course, you have to show different situations in order to really reach a broad audience with your emotionally charged images. But in the end, the visual style and color language are still super important. So nothing fancy, really straightforward, the real life. That's social media at its best. And if you really want to be clever, you create a kind of peer pressure. You can also create artificial scarcity. Only 10,000 pieces left, only available until, I don't know, the day after tomorrow. Or you can say it the other way around, already 100,000 pieces sold in 2 days. That's peer pressure. People say, hey, 100,000 people can't be wrong. I'll just take it. Inspiration sells on social media. High-quality aesthetic lifestyle images. Clear product presentation, but not sterile. The staging, the presentation, is deep. And that actually applies to all platforms. On Instagram, a little something for the older crowd. There, you might not want to go completely wild with your creativity. On TikTok, depending on the product, you can really step on the gas a bit more. There, you can trigger people a bit more. People there also like challenges, fancy sounds, and maybe even exaggerated lettering and really bold styles. That's a bit of an American style. You can definitely do that, you just have to try it out. It really depends a bit on your target audience. If you're selling kitchen aprons, you're reaching a different target audience than if, for example, you're selling grill tongs. Not just in terms of gender, but also separated by age at the end of the day. With kitchen aprons, for example, I haven't seen any woman under 40, 50, or even 60 using them these days. So it's more likely my grandma or my mother who would use them. With grill tongs, as I already mentioned, it's more like the rowdy guy from the Ruhr area with his new grill tongs from TikTok. So now we've had a quick rundown. Take a deep breath because we're far from finished. Now let's loop back to the marketplaces. Let's take a look at a few examples from SEO-Pictures. They really do a great job. So here, for example, if we take a look at this. This here is a shrink bag. I already talked about this at the Canton Fair in the last video. I'll put the link up here for you. There, I also had one of these shrink bags. I'll just call them that. Tested it at the Canton Fair. It was a great product, unlike this one here. I don't want to say this is bad. It was just a different product. So, and here we basically have exactly that, a white background. Exactly, and then they also have these funny stickers here so you know what's inside. When they're shrink wrapped, sometimes you can't recognize the items anymore, right? So, and here we have a whole bunch of them. Examples from SEO-Pictures. We can scroll through a bit more later. I really think they're very good, especially because they're truly comprehensive. And here you have examples of work from all categories, and they're really good too. The first image must have a white background, the product, and nothing else. The second image, and this is really important, must show the main features. So don't cram all the information onto one image. You'll overwhelm the customer, and then they won't understand a thing. And a customer who doesn't understand anything isn't going to hop on the next train. They just won't buy from you. You mustn't forget that. Uncertain customers will never buy a product from you. That means always keep it simple. I call it the salami technique because the salami tactic is always like that. You have to slip the information to the customer bit by bit. That means for you, the first image is the image, the first gallery image, right? After the preview image, the main features need to be presented. We just talked about Rale and his barbecue tongs, and I'm going to pick up on that topic again now. And here we have the 6-in-1 grill tool. It's not just my tongs, it's a tool. Of course, that's exactly what he's really into, just to play into the cliche here once again. So, we have a meat cutter. I've been told you can also use it to cut vegan things. Then we have a turner. Here, this is the thing. A grill fork, so you can pick up the pieces that are on the grill and turn them over with the fork. A sausage cutter, a scraper to clean the grill again. And yeah, guess what? Rale will be happy. That's the selling point. Because there's also a bottle opener included, so he can open his fast browser. SEO-Pictures has shown the 6 most important features right on the first image. That's super important. First gallery image. That means the customer immediately gets an idea. Yes, that's what I need. So, as I said, 6 features is more than enough. Never overwhelm the customer, because you still have more gallery images, namely the second gallery image. There you present secondary features, so not the most important ones. They're cool for making a purchase decision, but not absolutely necessary. Not really something that makes you stand up and clap and say, yes, that's what the world needed. For example, the ergonomic handle, which stays comfortable even during extended use. Comfortable. That means Raleigh can swing this thing around all afternoon and open one barrel of beer after another and even turn a few sausages as well. So, the customer is convinced. Raleigh says, yes, I have to have this thing. That's great. And then comes the third gallery image. That really blows him away and he throws it straight into the shopping cart because it comes with a top-notch grill apron. That means you've already convinced him with the first 2 gallery images. And then there's the killer argument. And now you also get a grill apron, which probably costs the seller. Well, it costs the seller 50 cents to buy, and Raleigh is convinced. I have to have it. I have everything I need. Now we have 3 gallery images. Now comes the 4th gallery image. Unfortunately, you can't see it here because it doesn't make sense either. It's product dependent, sometimes it doesn't make sense. That's why I'm going to show something else now. So let's go back to this vacuum bag. And here we have the step-by-step instructions. With these grill tongs, it just doesn't make sense to have step-by-step instructions. Where are we here? Yeah, Raleigh knows how to use this thing, and you certainly do too, otherwise you wouldn't be watching this channel. But here, with a vacuum bag like this, it's shown exactly in pictures. What needs to be done? 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's that simple. That means the customer feels totally confident. Yes, he can use this product perfectly for his need, for his problem. Alright, so that means now we have the step-by-step instructions. And now comes the 5th gallery image, if I haven't miscounted. And of course it's about evoking emotions. Here, for example, the clever helper for unforgettable barbecue evenings. Are you still grilling, or do you already have Grillbert? That's what I like to see. That's exactly how it should be. Here, delicious food on the grill. In the background, a few friends having a great time and cheering you on because you're the guy using this grill tool. And you're so much smarter than everyone else at the table. Well, here's another picture. You could use that as image 3 again. This here is brushed stainless steel, rust-proof, and then there's the packerwood, robust and ergonomic. You could test that in an A/B test to see which one works better as gallery image 3. People don't care about that, whether it's really brushed stainless steel or not. They couldn't care less. Yeah, also whether it's packerwood or not. What is packerwood? Wood, yeah, that should be enough. I can touch it, it doesn't break. That's exactly the kind of thing I need. Another thing that the SEO-Pictures have illustrated excellently is, for example, with this bed, the layout, or rather, the exact arrangement. What does the customer get? The customer needs to be made aware of this. Maybe that's really important to emphasize again. In your mind, the customer has to be 100% sure this is the product I need. Yes, and that's what they can recognize best. With a step-by-step guide, when the features have been highlighted, or here, if it's a complete set, what exactly is included in this product? Yes, and that way they can really picture it well. Here's a flower box, that's probably what it is. I'm not really that familiar with it myself. And always make sure to include application images at the end to create a certain mood. You have to imagine it like this. The customer is interested. The customer looks at the main features, finds the secondary features as an additional buying signal, and then maybe there's something else where they say, yes, that's even better than all the others. Competitors. Then an instruction manual so they know exactly, yes, that's exactly what I need. And then come the mood images, and that's where they get engaged emotionally again. If they still haven't bought by then, they weren't really a customer anyway. Many images, and this brings us to the next topic, are no longer photographed but rendered instead. So as a 3D model, you might be familiar with the term Blender now. Blender is the free 3D tool that people commonly use. And with it, you can do an excellent job rendering products. Here at SEO-Pictures, they also offer this service, so products like these are rendered here. They always look clean, of course. And to be completely honest, most of the images you see in Amazon listings are also rendered. That's not a bad thing, it's simply because it looks better, it's more professional, and the product itself doesn't change. And you also have to keep in mind that the product, when it's rendered, should be identical to what you actually ship to the customer in the box. If there are any discrepancies, then guess what? You'll have that thing back on your packing table as a return. And that only costs money, it's annoying, and at the end of the day, you might not even be able to sell it anymore. But if we take a look at what SEO-Pictures is doing here in the 3D sector, it looks pretty cool. So for example, this adhesive tape, these are the photos here. Shown here, you can hardly photograph them at all. The most professional sellers use hybrid solutions. That means the main images, so the preview images and also the listing images on Amazon, are usually computer-generated images or rendered images so that they look very clean. Usually only the mood shots, the action shots, are actually photographed. Real-life scenes, and of course for Instagram, TikTok, and Pinterest. These images are always photographed, they are never rendered. But for Amazon, the preview images, the explanatory images, the feature images, you can render those, that's no problem. But please, not the mood shots. If you render those as well, it stands out and looks silly. And at the end of the day, there's always something in the customer's subconscious like, yeah, somehow it all seems kind of fake now. I don't know how you see it, but when you watch a video and you know pretty much for sure that this video was generated by AI, you just don't take it seriously anymore. It just doesn't feel real to you. You don't have any trust in that video. And it's exactly the same with product images. When you see they're not real, no, just leave it. Especially with action shots. What's also good is that you can upload these kinds of 3D images on Amazon as well. If you take a look, you can view them from all sides. That significantly increases sales again. I've read studies showing that sales increase by between 20 and 25% when you have these 3D images. Above all, what definitely decreases is the return rate, because the customer can immediately see whether the product is suitable for them. But now, back to the price. SEO-Pictures starts at a price of €1,400, going up to €1,700. That covers 7 product images. Yes, exactly. So for people who really want a professional setup, it definitely makes sense to use 3D images here. The great thing about 3D images is that if you have a new variant, you don't have to have it photographed again or send it back to the agency. It can simply be re-rendered, calculated again in Blender, with new textures, new colors, or a slight change in shape. All of that is possible, even in a different setting. It's all very easy, very fast, and very cost-efficient. And at the end of the day, they always look good and consistent. This allows you to implement a consistent image strategy for your online shops or on marketplaces. And as I already mentioned, most images from professional sellers are, of course, rendered or computer-generated. And that basically means that if you want your product images to keep up, you have to go with this approach as well. Of course, you shouldn't always just copy the existing competitor listings. You have to do something different. If all the products look the same, then you're interchangeable too. Basically, as they say in NLP, you need to have a pattern interrupt. In other words, you have to break the pattern. Because if you have hundreds of garlic presses in the listing, and if they all look the same, then you just close your eyes, click on any one of them and buy it. But if you see one that has a different image presentation, that's the one you'll click on. If you have such images in your listing, like these 3D images, then we see significantly different numbers in terms of returns and sales. IKEA has measured this. You know IKEA. I don't need to go into that. They measured that when they use such 3D images. In their shop, they have 35% fewer returns and a 94% higher conversion rate. And of course, the time spent on the product page is significantly higher. That makes sense, of course. That means these 3D images have the potential to significantly boost your sales. And of course, when the conversion rate increases, as I mentioned earlier, when the conversion rate and sales go up, you also gain an advantage in SEO on Amazon. That means you generate even more sales while your competitors make less. And well, that's how the gap keeps widening. So now we come to the point, and I already promised you this, why Amazon has messed up so badly in Asia. It's because of the product images, specifically the first preview image. If you take a look at the images on the marketplaces in Asia, they look completely different. That's because the visual perception of Asians is different. They pay much more attention to the background. They equate the background with the product. They see them as one and the same. And if you have a white background, which is pretty emotionless, then you won't score any hits in Asia, especially in China. You won't score any hits. They find that totally uncool. Above all, white is also a color of mourning, just by the way. It's not luxurious, it looks sterile, it seems boring. They don't want that. It's just not sexy. They aren't triggered by it. Even the colors, for example, are completely different in China. Red means prosperity, happiness, and celebration. Gold stands for luxury and wealth. Yellow is royal and central. Green means health. White is death and mourning, I mentioned it earlier. And black is mysterious and premium. So for example, you're not allowed to use white at all? Anything that's white is just uncool. That's why there are so few white pages in China, but on Amazon, everything is white. From the perspective of Chinese people, it looks like an obituary, not like an online shop in China. Do you always have to present a luxurious approach for your product? That's the best way. The best thing you can do is use infographics with features, lots of buttons, lots of QR codes if possible. Showing before and after is always great too, after 7 days, after 28 days. They need trust. They have to see, okay, can I trust this product or not? And above all, in China, influencers are key. If you have influencers on board for your product, then you simply can't lose. The more trustworthy the influencer is, the better it is, because people trust their peers. And generally what influencers say is actually true. You won't find an influencer who will promote your product if it's actually total junk. That just won't happen. They pay very close attention to that, because influencers make their living from this and won't ruin their reputation. And customers and followers know that too. In Japan, for example, they really want things to be clean and minimalist. That's why Amazon works reasonably well there. It's the 4th or 3rd largest market, depending on the season. That means our Western approach is always perfectly lit, the cup on a white background, symmetrically flawless. So, the Japanese, they like similar things. They say, okay, the cup should be on a wooden table to convey a bit of feeling. But of course, there's light, a slight asymmetry. The steam rises, shadows are depicted. That's the Japanese style. But Amazon somehow works there. The Chinese see things completely differently. Above all, Japanese customers expect transparency and trust. If it's made in Japan, show it. Show the production process. List ingredients and materials in detail. Be sure to include quality seals. So, my dears, now you know everything there is to know about product photography. You know what's important on Amazon, what's important on eBay. What do I need to know about social media? Why are there different strategies for images in Asia, Europe, and the USA? And why are 3D images so really cool? Let me know in the comments below what you think about it. And I'll see you in the next video.